Hi, I'm Mike Bush. I want to acknowledge Commissioner Peter Marshall and his leadership over the last 3 years.
We're not perfect. We do make mistakes.
Peter's set the bar extremely high. One of the reasons our results are so good is because of the high levels of public trust and confidence.
G'day everybody. Well, we got a letter this morning from the complaint that I filed with the IPCA. Now the complaint I filed was with regards to not being able to ascertain where CP89, where he was from. I merely wanted to make sure I knew which station he was from so I could talk to his supervisor and make sure something had been dealt with or someone had been spoken to in regards to it. So I had a few questions. Had CP89 had a word to and corrected in regards to what a person can or can't do? As to whether or not Jeff Mackley had made a complaint, nothing to do with me, I didn't care. My issue was making sure that the officer was corrected, not what he had done, but his claims of being false. After trying to contact Steve Samuels at Mount Wellington, he kept telling me that CP89 wasn't from that station and he wasn't going to help me any further. He didn't let me know whether or not the man had been spoken to. He told me he had other information, but he wasn't going to divulge any of that. So yeah, I had to go through and file an IPCA complaint in regards to just the lack of information I was asking for. The letter from IPCA dated the 7th of September states the following. Dear Mr. Keane, I am writing to you in acknowledgement of your complaint to the Independent Police Conduct Authority on the 29th of August 2016. Your complaint relates to the actions of Senior Sergeant Stephen Samuels of the Mount Wellington Police Station. You have stated that Senior Sergeant Samuels failed to identify the supervisor of a staff member that you alleged obstructed Mr. Jeff Mackley. Mr. Mackley was the subject of an obstruction by a Mount Wellington police officer you have identified as CP89. I can advise that I am familiar with that original complaint as one of my staff members dealt with Mr. Mackley in relation to it. Police have already spoken to Mr. Mackley and acknowledged that the police officer was wrong. Keyword wrong in his belief that he could stop Mr. Mackley filming in a scene in a public place. This matter has now been satisfactorily conciliated with Mr. Mackley. So that original complaint that Jeff no doubt had against CP89 was dealt with between them. Why are you telling me this? Granted, I did ask had the officers been spoken to, but they don't need to tell me that everything's been sorted out with Mr. Mackley. That's between him and them. It's got nothing to do with me. So just remember, he's giving me that information. You requested from Senior Sergeant Samuels to know the identity of Officer CP89, who his supervisor and what was the station he was from. You have also inquired whether Officer CP89 has been held accountable for his actions and whether his errors have been corrected. Firstly, I can inform you that the officer in question has been spoken to and his actions, and he is now well aware of the rights of members of the public to film in a public place. Good. That's one of my questions that I wanted to make sure had been sorted, so he's not going to fuck up again. We have also reiterated to all of Auckland police staff the rights of the public to film as long as they are not obstructing an operation. Like Jeff, he was not obstructing anything. In relation to the identity of Officer CP89, New Zealand, now here's the key point guys, New Zealand police officers are required to identify themselves by their name or by their identity number if they are involved with an incident with a member of the public or requested this information by a member of the public during the course of their duty. In other words, if they're working. Alright? So just remember what he says in that paragraph, page 2. You, personally, Mr. Keane, have had no involvement in relation to this incident, and therefore you are not entitled to any further information in relation to Officer CP89 or information relating to his station or supervisor. I am involved. I have been involved for 2 months trying to chase down the man's identity. The IPCA complaint was filed against Stephen Samuels, failing to supply me that information, or a good reason why not. My complaint was not against CP89 obstructing Jeff Mackley. That was for Jeff to sort out. My complaint was the New Zealand Police as a whole obstructing me as a member of the public. In their words, requesting the information by the member of the public during the course of their duty. Steve was working. I was asking them for the identity of a member of their staff to make sure something could be fixed, and they stonewalled me the whole time. Anyway, moving on. The original complaint by Mr. Mackley, which has nothing to do with me, has been dealt with to the satisfaction of Mr. Mackley, and this is not a matter that requires any further investigation by my office. Well, what about the matter of CP89 stating that he was from Mount Wellington Police Station, and the senior sergeant of Mount Wellington Police Station not 2 months later claiming that he's not from that station? Isn't that an issue that should get sorted? Perhaps you could just say he's moved on, he's on to another station, or he's been fired, or he's now doing this. If he's not from that station, I have no reason to believe that he isn't, because he identified himself from there, and the people that are at that station are saying he's not from there. So there's the conflict. That is my issue with the IPCA. Not hard, is it? A copy of this letter will be forwarded to the Independent Police Conduct Authority. The authority is entirely independent of the police. Really? Entirely independent of the police. That, to me, looks like it's not entirely independent of the police. Just want to point that out. You personally, Mr. Keane, have sorry. If you are dissatisfied with the outcome, you can advise the Independent Police Conduct Authority the reasons for this by either of the following methods. Oh, really? Write to the Independent Police Conduct Authority and waste more of my time. PO Box 25221, Lambton Quay, Wellington 6146, or by email to C complaint.management@ipca.govt.nz. Yours sincerely, A Wakelin. It's actually signed it with wet ink. Inspector, Professional and Conduct Manager, Auckland City District, CC Independent Police Conduct Authority. So why are they telling me that the Independent Police is entirely independent, and yet they're CCing it to the entirely independent because it's from the police? Because if I file it to the IPCA, and this is what they do, they send it straight back to the police to investigate the police, to see if the police have done something wrong to correct it. What I don't get is that he's saying in this one paragraph that or requested this information by a member of the public during the course of their duty, which is what I've done, and I'm going by what I've viewed, that's what he identified himself as. So obviously I'm going to go to Mount Wellington Station to ask for the officer, or to find out more information to make sure it's been sorted. As a member of the public, I can do that. And yet they say, therefore you are not entitled to any further because I was not involved in relation to the incident. Well, the incident is that I'm asking for information and I'm not getting it. I'm getting conflicting information from two members of the same group, all wearing blue hats and uniforms. So,
one of the reasons our results are so good is because of the high levels of public trust and confidence